So yeah, Teresa, they should keep us abreast of what's going on in Elmo too. Yeah, that would be nice.
Thanks for the reminder, Joan. We need to get started, y'all.
Yes.
I know I would chit chat all day. All righty, so I don't need the agenda on the screen, do you? Anybody need it? No? Okay. All righty, so I guess since we have about 5 more minutes to do meet and greet, if anybody wants to share, you know, who they are, and if they're not from Southwood, if they're from another neighborhood, if they want to share that. We do have a couple of guests today with us. We have Michael Whellan, who's with Armbrust and Brown. I don't know if we have anyone else from your group, Michael.
Yeah, April Brown.
And April Brown. All right. And then we also have Ann DeSanctis, who's with the Urban Trails. She's the Urban Trails Project Coordinator with Public Works. She's going to be here talking about our very exciting project that's going to be coming through our neighborhood. It's the Bergstrom Spur. We've been waiting a long time for that, right, Kate?
Yep.
So we're really excited about that. So, so does anybody want to introduce themselves or where they live in the neighborhood or how long they've been here or anything like that? Or should we just jump right in? All right, y'all.
You let us know who's here that isn't in the neighborhood so I can record those in the minutes accurately. Who's here that does not live in Southwood?
Me, Jeff. I'm the Sector 8 rep.
Yes, Jeff, and who else? Ann, I guess.
Right,
And-
and Amy and April and Michael. April and Michael are our guests, and Ann is our guest.
Are you in
Jeff-
Southwood, Nancy? Sorry? I can't hear you, Nancy. You're muted. Still can't. Okay, well, that's good enough for now. Thank you.
And I'll be able to get you a list of attendees after this is over through the Zoom app.
Thank you.
You don't have to panic about trying to get everybody written down. I figured out how to do that the other day. All right, so we're going to start with the St. David's South Austin expansion and rezoning application. And so we have Michael and April here to talk about that. We have you talking for until a couple minutes before 7.
Can I share my screen? Is that okay?
Yes, please.
Yeah, we have a short presentation just to quickly run through a little bit of background with St. David's and then quick background on the PUD and what we're seeking to do in terms of modifying it. First of all, obviously, thanks a bunch for allowing me to be here and allowing April to be here. We really appreciate this opportunity. And I want to thank Natalie, Anna, and the rest of the South Menchaca Neighborhood Contact Team and Southwood Neighborhood Association for allowing me to join you tonight. I'm here today to discuss the St. David's request to amend South Austin Medical Center PUD to bring a portion of the site into alignment with the existing hospital height. St. David's is planning to build a new 7-story structure with approximately 150 beds that's going to connect to the existing 7-story hospital. And as we all know, our region is growing, and with it, so do the healthcare needs of our community. To speak more specifically to that growth, recent population data shows that the Austin MSA grew by over 30% from 2010 to 2020. I don't think this is unexpected from y'all. And projections show that growth continuing for the years and decades to come. This project expands healthcare access in Central Texas and better equips St. David's to meet the community's medical needs. Importantly, it also is in alignment with the original vision for the hospital. Council adopted the PUD in 1996, which planned for a phased construction approach. And to date, St. David's has only built out about 2/3 of the plan. Before we dive into the details of the project, I wanted to just take a quick moment to share some facts about St. David's. I'm going to run through these pretty quickly. I know you're familiar with the name and the hospital, but I want to speak about their commitment to the community and their investment in the community. Delivering the best care to patients obviously is the top priority. Over the last 26 years, they've invested $2.5 billion to develop high quality facilities and deploy state-of-the-art technology. Additionally, since its formation in 1996, St. David's Foundation has awarded over $772 million in community grants. It's, I think, the largest healthcare only foundation in the nation. It's almost approaching $1 billion foundation that contributes tens of millions of dollars every year to the community. It goes to local agencies that really serve our most vulnerable neighbors and work to improve the healthcare access and health outcomes to everybody in Central Texas. Many of you may be familiar with St. David's compassionate approach to healthcare. They've also provided over $4.7 billion in care to vulnerable and low-income patients since 1996, and they serve more patients than any other healthcare system in the region. And a fun fact for you to take away, St. David's delivers 6 out of every 10 babies born in Central Texas. Providing this level of patient service means maintaining large staff levels. St. David's is the 4th largest private employer in the Austin area, employing nearly 11,000 people across 8 hospitals, including over 4,600 registered nurses and over 2,600 physicians. Their dedication to the community and the staff is especially important given the last 2 years we've been through. And since the beginning of COVID-19 pandemic, they've treated over 7,300 COVID patients. They've administered over 24,000 vaccines. Obviously, this has been a very, very difficult time to be employed and to work as a healthcare worker. They have shielded employees from impacts of the pandemic and did not lay off or furlough anybody. They've paid out over $10.8 million during their pandemic pay continuation program and guaranteed a full-time and part-time employees 70% of their base pay. They also had a quarantine pay program so that healthcare workers who did get sick or were exposed would be able to quarantine at home and not lose any pay. And finally, St. David's Foundation contributed over $10 million to the effort to vaccinate folks and provide relief to people. So obviously compassionate and committed to the community. And I think their actions speak louder than any words that I could ever come up with. I know you want to talk about the details, so let's do that. As we discussed, the PUD was created in 1996 with the understanding that the hospital would be built out in phases. I think this is on the next slide. Let me see. Can you get the next slide, April? Did we lose April? Maybe, I don't know. There, oh, there it is. The PUD was created in 1996 with the understanding that it would be built out in phases. The current hospital structures account for approximately 66% of the total approved building area. The PUD was approved with a formal traffic impact analysis, which granted the South Austin Medical Center a total of 10,548 trips at full build out. And today the hospital generates about 50% of the allotted trips. City staff currently estimates that the expansion will add about 2,700 trips to the site. So once the project is complete, the total daily trip count will still be well under the original allotment. This chart, which is on the next slide, this makes those numbers a little more clear. You can see the total trip allotment, the existing trip count, how much this project would add, and where we will end up once the expansion is complete, which is 22% under the maximum allowed trips. And this is from the Institute of Transportation Engineers manual that is utilized by traffic engineers. So our request is to amend the PUD, and this will be the first change to the PUD since 1998. And here you see the 1998 amendment, which added 3 small lots up on James Casey, which you can see in the highlighted area on the screen. On this slide, you can see the area that would be amended per our request. The highlighted area, the highlighted yellow area is the portion of the site that would receive the height increase. It may be difficult to see this, but the different hatches represent the existing heights. The amendment would change a piece of the 60-foot zone and a piece of the 80-foot zone and match that area to the adjacent 120-foot zone. So the large area from Ben White to the first blue line or the highlighted area is 120, and we're simply extending the hospital into that area that is yellow. The hospital was granted the 120-foot height zone as part of the original PUD. And as you can see, the majority of the hospital's buildable area is already 120 feet. This map shows the extent of the 120-foot zone if the amendment is approved. The new patient building, as I indicated earlier, is going to add about 150 beds and up to 6 operating rooms, which helps increase, obviously, the regional healthcare capacity. So quick recap, as I indicated, it'll allow St. David's to better meet our community growing medical needs. It's consistent with the original vision for the hospital when it was approved in 1996, and it will not exceed the allotted trip count under the original TIA. I know that's a lot of information, so I'm available to answer any questions you may have. And again, I want to thank you very much for the time and the discussion we're about to have. And that's all I've got. So thanks.
Thank you, David. I mean, Michael. Sorry, I don't know why I called you David. I had David on the brain. So does anybody have any? So I think there are some questions in the chat, Michael, if you want to start there.
Yeah, so it looks like somebody asked about James Casey and people turning in off of James Casey, and we don't have the current plan. The site plan hasn't been filed, obviously, for this expansion. And at the time that site plan is filed, they're certainly are going to explore with the staff whether improvements need to be made. It's a top concern of ours if people can't get to the hospital safely. I know I've heard from others before coming off the highway and trying to make that left onto James Casey can be challenging, to say the least. So I'm sure that's something that'll be investigated. It's there though already. It's a pre-existing condition, and we also want to be aware that a lot of times there are emergencies. Obviously, it's the busiest ER in town, and we want to be sure that ambulances can get there. A lot of emergencies happen early in the morning and late at night when it is not as dangerous to cross from the highway to James Casey. I know, Jeffrey, you had a question?
Yes, sir, I do. You gave a trip count of like 10,548, but do you have a total for what it is for all of those facilities in there that are also impacted by this? Because you got Texas Oncology, you got several other facilities all up and along there, that if that's just 10,000 for St. David's,
Correct.
then what is the grand total which impacts that whole area also? Do you have those numbers?
I don't have those numbers. I represent St. David's. I don't have that.
I understand that. I'm just asking because it's, if you've ever tried to get in over there, I mean, they park up on the grass at Texas Oncology, and I mean, the parking is just all throughout the whole place, whether you're going to St. David's, whether you're in the entire area. That's all. I just wanted to know if you have those numbers.
Yes, I acknowledge it's crowded, which is why St. David's doubled the size of its parking garage. Obviously, y'all are well aware of that. That was done in part, and it's been oversized, not only to manage this new structure, but also to try and get parking off the street and out of the neighborhood. St. David's values the relationship with the neighborhood and spent an extraordinary sum of money to expand that parking garage because it knows it's obvious. You'd have to really be completely unaware that parking is an issue and trying to get street people off. So I hope it's helped. Has it helped at all? I'd love to get that feedback because I think, frankly, that would be some helpful feedback to know whether that parking garage has helped.
I don't see it in the times that I've been over there and been over that way with a recent patient that was.
People are
doing some
still
different
parking
treatments.
a lot on the street.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That whole street is lined up. From
I'm
the,
talking about James Casey. James
Yep.
Casey, Jeff?
That's
Yeah.
what I'm talking about, from James
Okay.
Casey, from
I
the
think
intersection right there off the feeder road all the way up. So but that's my observation for what it's worth.
I'll find out if there might be a signage issue. So people, maybe there's something we can do with regard to signage.
And
A
David,
lot of the people that are parking there are the nurses. Because going by there on our way running, if we choose to go that route, a lot of times it's people that are working at the hospital that are trying to cross the street there.
And you can see
And-
nurses going into the, well, we that's
And
something
they
we
parked
can
up, they're the ones parking on the side of the street.
well, we can definitely figure out what's going on there and get a little bit better intel.
so David Foster had a question. He was asking, why was the height limited to 60 and 80 feet on these lots now in question?
You know, we went back, I can't figure out why. I think the hospital had a plan to build the main structure where it is. And that was back in 96. And then it added land and didn't modify or recognize that the city would expand the way it did, frankly. I mean, I think I would give, St. David's a low grade for strategic planning on the growth of the city and the need for healthcare. So I don't have a good answer. That was what they thought would be sufficient at the time. And it has proven not to be. And as you obviously know, they're landlocked. I mean, I know there's some questions about traffic patterns. One good thing for the neighborhood is we're bounded by a railroad, which serves as basically a barrier going west from the site. There's no streets that cross into or near St. David's coming from the west because of the railroad tracks. It's a complete barrier, right? I forgot how far south you have to go before you can cross going west. I have to go look at a map. Does somebody know off the top of their head? I forget.
It's just at St. Elmo where you can cross.
So you got to go south. Yeah.
It's a couple blocks. Mhm.
Thank you for that. I also wanted to make sure that Kate's very good question is addressed about, maybe you sort of spoke to it on James Casey at St. Elmo, as I'm a cyclist, as are others on this. And I'll often take the 801 down to that transit center at Radham and South Congress, and then bike on Radham, cross South First Street, and then take a left on James Casey. And it gets very narrow as you approach St. Elmo. And I understand that that's a city street, but it still seems that there's an opportunity for St. David's to partner with the city and help pay for making that a more bicycle and pedestrian friendly stretch, especially given St. David's record, as you mentioned, of charitable giving and so forth. And, let's face it, I've used St. David any number of times. It's great to have this in our neighborhood. It's close. But you guys have a lot of money and a lot of clout, private, for-profit entity that serves us very well. So I'm thinking that you might be in a position or St. David's to help pay for the costs of improving that and making it more bicycle and pedestrian friendly.
Can you give me 1 second? I'm pulling up a map. Can you tell me which street you were saying
It's
Radham
so
Lake?
I'll bike west on Radham and then turn south on James Casey. And as you approach St. Elmo, it skinnies down. I just looked at it again on Google Maps to make sure I'm not crazy, and I'm not, because I ride there.
Yeah.
And there's no curb and gutter, there's no sidewalk. It's just a strip of asphalt there. And yeah, it's a
Can I
pretty
jump in on that?
piece.
With the Bergstrom Spur, there's an opportunity to connect through some other portion of that medical facility directly to the Bergstrom Spur. And then, you know, with St. Elmo to avoid the bicycle and cars in that squeeze, you know, because we can route the people on the Bergstrom Spur.
Which is our next talk.
Mhm.
One second here. I'm looking at it now, David, and maybe you and I can talk offline and because I bike too. And I'm looking at James Casey. I see sidewalks, but I might not be in the right location on James Casey. I might be too far south. So maybe
Sidewalk.
Well, yeah,
It
Uh,
dead stops before you get to St. Elmo. The
Got it.
sidewalk. Yeah.
there's a
and
sidewalk on the west side.
I
At
see.
least-
Got
yes.
it. Got it.
and-
I
and
see it now.
partly on the east side, but
Yeah.
it doesn't go all the way, and it's just a narrow little thing.
Yeah. It's that last little block. It's
Correct.
It's on the west side, but not on the east side. I got it.
Correct. And Kate's point is well taken, that the Bergstrom Spur is right there, but it would still be great. I don't know if it excludes, well, maybe it does. Maybe there's a way to just take it off the tracks into the area. But at least this is something that needs to be explored. And either way, whatever we decide, it'd be great if St. David's could help pay for that.
Yeah.
Active transportation, you know, healthy living and all of that too. Checks a lot of boxes.
run out of time. Natalie Yates had a question. Natalie, do you want to share your question or do you want me to read it?
Yeah, no, I was gonna ask, I just forgot to take myself off mute. It's been a day. Is there any, so I think a lot of that, what Kate said was commuter traffic, like there's a lot of traffic where people are coming off of Ben White eastbound and they don't want to take a right on South First Street, so they just cut through James Casey. And I think that causes a lot of unnecessary traffic. Is there any idea, I mean, I know this would probably be a TxDOT thing, but is there any idea that you could kind of, you know, cordon off that area so that you had to go to the light at South First instead of cutting through? I feel like that would.
Yeah. Are you seeing this with people who are not going to the hospital? They're actually cutting through.
Oh yeah, for
Yes.
sure.
That was my
Sure.
question too.
Most
Exactly my
definitely.
question. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that was yours, Teresa, as well. They're cutting through.
They cut
Okay.
through there,
Yes,
yeah.
there-
they cut
yes.
through There. They come up really fast to make that right. And,
Because you have to cut across, like, I think it's 3 or 4 lanes
Three
in order to
lanes.
do that.
Yeah.
So it's just
but
insane.
too, if they could fix it like they have up at Congress, that might help.
Yeah, obviously TxDOT is who we need to talk to. And you're right, it isn't City of Austin, it would be TxDOT, which is an interesting agency to work with. I wouldn't even say work with, they'll tell you what their belief is. It's an interesting organization, to say the least. But thank you, and that's a good point. So that's good. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's a huge
So
problem.
thank you, Michael, for coming and speaking to us. If anybody else has any other questions, you can send them to the Southwood officers email and I can forward them to Michael for you. Or Michael, if you want, you can put your direct email in the chat so that if folks, you know, come up with a thought after, so they can reach out to you.
Yeah,
But-
and obviously we're in process, and I expect there'll be a hearing, you know, in the next few weeks. I'm gonna keep Natalie and Anna informed, and I'll use the email so everybody gets notice. Obviously, if it's appropriate now or soon to have a motion to support, you know, what we're trying to accomplish, we'd be very grateful for that. And obviously it makes the process a little smoother in the end.
So I don't know that we move. I'll let Anna say that, but if we were to move, I move that we are in favor of St. David's expanding to accommodate the growth. My boys were born there. It's in our neighborhood. It's a huge asset. And I think we could be better neighbors with the St. David's, this partnership. And I think we could work through some traffic and, you know, have you be a real beacon for health for our community as well. So I'm in favor.
Well, we can have a vote. If anybody has their hands raised right now, please lower, turned off the icon so that we can use them to count. So if Kate, if you want to, if that's your motion to support this.
I
okay.
support it.
Does anybody second that?
Sure. Yeah.
Second, Sarah?
I was saving some for your lunch.
Who wants to second? Is that you,
I
Helen?
second.
Who seconded?
Yeah, I have a question before it's voted on. With the last 3 expansions of the hospital, they haven't done anything to improve the traffic at James Casey, which also, the elementary kids cross there also. So I think that they could put a little bit more pressure on the city to take care of that, because I don't believe that section is TxDOT down at the other end from Ben White. So that's my comment. And after that comment, I will support.
Yeah, it's not, and that's a fair point. And I also think it might be helpful if at some point a group, Kate and others, Natalie, Anna, if maybe we meet at the hospital with the CEO of the hospital there and walk through some of these traffic issues. And I think it was David made the comment about signage, or somebody did. We're also looking at, or I saw the wayfinding. Somebody had wayfinding. We have talked about better wayfinding to try and get people off the street and into the parking garage. That would involve almost like, you see at the airport, those signs that go over streets, but it's a little bit more complicated to get permission, and they have to be a certain height, and you need the city approval. But it might be helpful if we collaborated a little bit on how to do better wayfinding to get people into the parking garage and off the street. And Teresa, to your point, I'll also let the CEO know as soon as we're done later tonight about letting nurses know if there's parking, let's use the parking garage. We just spent tens of millions of dollars on a parking garage. Let's use it.
Mhm.
All right, so then Helen seconds it with the caveat that we talk about taking care of James Casey. Yes, okay.
Is that a part of the motion then, that we talk about traffic concerns?
What's that, David?
Is that a part of the motion that we support it, but that we ask St. David's to explore improving traffic issues?
Kate, yes. Kate
Okay,
is
got it.
yes.
Great.
So yeah, we would
Kate's
support it.
nodding, so she agrees. Great.
Yes.
So do I.
And that was what Helen was saying, that too, for a second. Okay. All right. So, and I'm voting, just to be transparent, I'm voting for y'all's benefit because I can't go to St. David's. My insurance does not cover me if I go to St. David's, but I will vote
No.
to benefit you.
I'm voting yes, but I almost died at St. David's and that was not my fault. So I'm here for it.
All right, so shall we have a vote now? I guess we'll do if everyone can turn on their cameras, if they're not on, so that we can see your hands, or if you are not comfortable turning on your camera, if you can do the wave hand signal so that.
Actually, I have a quick question. I'm sorry. This is only my second meeting. Am I allowed to vote? What are the voting rules?
Do you remember, David?
If you live or own property within the boundaries of Southwood, you are allowed to vote on this one.
Okay, cool.
Or own a business.
Different if it's the contact team meeting after following this.
Oh, that's right,
Yes,
that's
you
right.
can vote here.
So yes, so you can, so yeah, so if y'all live in Southwood or own property here, you can vote. So this is voting yes. So David, you want to go through the screens and do the count?
Could we just say who doesn't approve of it?
I can't hear you, David.
I think it's everybody.
It's unanimous as far as I can see. Is there
Yeah,
anyone
I
opposed
agree.
that I didn't see?
I am seeing that as
Anybody?
well.
So unanimous.
No abstentions, no opposition. Great, thank you.
Okay,
All the people.
thank y'all.
Oh, I guess I can.
Thank you all very much. Would it be okay if I stayed on to listen to Ann's presentation as well about this? I think it might help
Yes,
inform us
please,
a little bit.
because that's going to be right behind your building. So yeah.
Yeah, it would be
please do.
helpful.
All righty. So we'll go ahead and move on to our next topic, which would be the Bergstrom Spur and DeSanctis. Am I pronouncing that right, Anne?
You are.
Thank God. Okay. And I know that you had a presentation that you'd like to share with us. So if you'd like to share your screen, that would be wonderful.
Okay. Hopefully it looks the same for you as it does for me. I tried to do full screen. Let me know if it looks funky.
Oh, beautiful.
Okay, great. So I am barely not a member of Southwood Neighborhood Association. I live very close by. I'm just north of 290 on Menchaca. So this project is all dear to my heart since I live so close, and it will be such a vital east-west connection for folks walking and biking and scooting and everything else. So, but to introduce myself again, I'm Ann DeSanctis. I'm one of the project coordinators for City of Austin's Urban Trails program. And the project team is myself plus our project manager, but I am speaking on behalf of Urban Trails tonight. And so I will ask for questions at the end, but there might be some technical things that I'm not able to answer tonight. But I'll start by saying this project's super exciting because it is going to be Austin's first rail to trail project. So that term is used rather loosely, but it's basically any old rail corridor that has been converted for multimodal usage. And so in other parts of the country, that translates to more of a dirt path or something similar to the hike and bike trail. But in this context, ours will be an urban trail. And so for City of Austin urban trails, we have paved ADA accessible paths. So let's see how I fast forward. Well, and then there we go. Okay. A little project background. So this spur, which you all are very familiar with since it splits your, well, it doesn't, the northwest or north-south rail splits your all's neighborhood in half, but the east-west portion of it goes right through and is right in the heart of the neighborhood as well. So this spur came about in World War II and actually connected that north-south rail line to what was then the Air Force Base, Bergstrom Air Force Base. And so the rail spur was decommissioned and abandoned in 1993. And I think since then, people have probably been interested in making better use of it. And so City of Austin partnered with CAMPO, the Capital Area Metropolitan Planning Organization, in 2019 to start studying how we could reuse this space as an urban trail and have it be useful and aesthetically pleasing for the neighborhood rather than an eyesore, which it kind of is now. So we did do public outreach in 2019 through 2021 for this project, which thank you all so much for your input then. I was not with the project team at that time, but I've looked through all the comments and those were definitely taken into account for that award-winning Bergstrom Spur Corridor study. So we actually, the project team for that and CAMPO won an APA Texas award for that report. So I hope you all have looked at it and are excited about what's to come. So this project comes, the funding for it comes from several different places. Several of those mobility bonds that folks have voted on in the past couple of years, as well as parkland dedication funds. And since it spans such a broad span of land, we are partnering with several different internal departments as well as external. And that includes our Safe Routes to School program, which is also within Public Works, Austin Transportation Department, the Parks and Recreation Department, as well as TxDOT, since we'll be passing them underneath I-35. So more detail about the project itself. We've broken it into 3 segments, and it might be hard to see on the screen. I can, was gonna say I might be able to zoom in. I don't think I can zoom in when I'm in presenting mode, but that bottom right map shows 3 different colors. And so we've broken it up into a western, central, and eastern segment. And that is primarily for speed of implementation. So we know that the eastern segment is going to be the most complicated. So we split it up so that we can hopefully deliver the western segment first, followed by central, or hopefully central and western at the same time. But we know that they're going to move at different speeds. And we didn't want to hold up the western and central portions of it because of the kind of complications with the eastern portion. So that's how we're moving forward. So you'll hear me refer to it as central, west, and east segments. And they are actual separate projects with different project teams. And that will come into play when we go into more public comment period, because we'll have to have different comment periods for each one. So you can keep that in mind when you get a lot of emails about public input. So our goal for this project is to have a dual track paved trail for the whole 6.5 miles. And this image up top here is what is at the Boggy Creek Trail, if folks have visited that in East Austin. And as you can see, there's 2 different paths. And so the darker red portion is what we call a bikeway, and the lighter portion is what we'll call a pedway. And so dual track just means that there's going to be separate space for both pedestrians and cyclists or those moving faster. And that we found is what people like, because it gives them lots of space to move at their own speed. And it also allows for us to have lighting in between when we have a nice median area, and allow for other features that can go in the middle, such as landscaping. So that is our goal for the length of it, but we do know that there are constraints in some areas. And so we won't necessarily be able to have a median in all parts, but we will have at least color separated areas for the entire length of it to show where bicyclists and faster moving people should be versus slower moving pedestrians or younger folks and things like that. So diving into the segments themselves, the western portion, so closest to you all, is just over 1 mile, and it will connect Vinson Drive to South Congress. And our partners for this are ATD, Austin Transportation, and the Safe Routes to School program. So ATD partnership is really important for this because, as you all I'm sure are familiar, Vinson does not have sidewalks along this stretch. And so part of the project will actually be including a shared use path along the eastern side of Vinson that will tie directly into the rail right of way and the trail itself. So that is going to be from the rail right of way down to Aberdeen, which is where we'll basically work with ATD to figure out the best way to connect it to what are then the Emerald Forest bike lanes. So you'll have full connectivity, which is awesome. The Safe Routes partnership for this section is with St. Elmo Elementary. And as you all have talked about already, James Casey Street comes in pretty close to where the rail currently crosses St. Elmo Drive. And so we're working with the Safe Routes folks to figure out what that crossing is going to look like and how we can partner with them as they're doing improvements around St. Elmo Elementary to the sidewalks and the ramps for ADA access. So, excuse me. The status for this one is that we have completed the preliminary engineering report, or PER, and that basically is the desktop survey of everything that dives into what engineering problems we might encounter and what to look for as we're digging into the design. So we've also started that 30% design and are close to wrapping that up, and expect to see 30% design from our in the next month. So that design will be still pretty high level, but it means that they'll have survey, which is the on the ground, looking at the physical space and seeing how much space we have to put in our trail. On the right there is our estimated timeline. And so far we're doing pretty well sticking to this, which is really exciting to see. So we're in that spring 2022 with the 30% design, and after 30% we'll have 60% and 90%. And each of those design, I guess, timelines brings us closer and closer to bid, when we will find the contractor who will actually construct it, and then construction. So onto Central. Central is almost 2 miles and will connect South Congress to Todd Lane. So we're out of Southwood neighborhood at this point, but the whole trail will act like a singular trail once it's completely built, and it will look and feel similar for the entire route. So you'll be able to seamlessly transition from the western piece to the central segment. Our biggest partner here is TxDOT, since this is where we pass underneath I-35. So for folks who have tried to walk this route as is, you know that the crossing underneath that is not super comfortable. It's not super safe feeling, and it just doesn't have great aesthetics either. So we're hoping to improve all of that. And thankfully, TxDOT is also doing their South Central 35 work. And so we're already talking with them and partnering with them, and they will be including sidewalks from basically where the rail right of way is south, where they currently don't exist. It's just kind of a trodden path at this point. So that's also a great improvement that one of our partners will be bringing. So status for this one is that the PER is complete, and this one has moved a little bit faster for design. And so we're at 60% design, or just starting out 60% design. So they already have all of their survey, and they are now digging into the deeper intersection designs, because that's usually where we have the most kind of conflict, is when we're crossing over the streets themselves. So we have to work with ATD for that, as well as TxDOT for the 35 portions. This timeline is very similar to the western segment. And so again, we're hoping that this one and west can move together and move forward and be in construction by 2023. So the eastern segment is our longest segment. It's 3.5 miles, and it'll connect Todd Lane to East Riverside Drive and US 183. So our biggest partner with this one is Parks and Recreation, and that is because they have a large piece of property that will become parkland upon a new residential apartment building being built nearby that they've dedicated that parkland. And so we're working with them to run the trail through that parkland. It's pretty exciting because most of these area that the trail is running through is very developed and rather industrial, which makes sense considering it was a rail spur. But this portion of it will allow for us to be a little bit more in nature. And there's a creek that we're hoping to cross over on the eastern segment, and some really beautiful trees that we've seen out there. So it'll give a nice feel for that portion of the trail. The biggest two things to note for the eastern segment is that the rail right-of-way crosses over Burleson at one point, but we're likely not going to be able to follow the rail right-of-way because of existing Austin Energy infrastructure. So this picture shows those transmission lines that span basically for the last half of the central segment and the entire length of the eastern segment. So we are working very closely with Austin Energy to figure out what's going to be the safest and most feasible route for the eastern segment, but that will definitely add time to the eastern segment. But like I said, that presents new opportunities for us to explore where we can be more in nature, as well as where we can connect to what has become a large office area over off Metro Center Drive and Burleson, like the eastern portion of Burleson near 183. So you'll see this one, we are not doing a full PER, just the timeline doesn't allow. Instead, we're doing an alternatives analysis, which is basically looking at all of those different possible routes that we could take to avoid these large transmission poles and to avoid the other Austin Energy substations. They actually have 2 substations in this area that will have to go around. So the timeline for this one reflects that and is about a year behind the central and western segments. So this is kind of the big picture overview. Our little bike person here shows where we currently are, which is kicking off design or already into almost 60% design for the central segment. And then we'll continue through that for the next year and a half, and then we'll be into bid and construction. So for you all to be involved, which you've already been involved a lot, helping us with the corridor study, the very first ask, and this is an immediate ask because the deadline is actually tomorrow, but I believe Anna sent around to the group, we are working on letters of support for a RAISE grant. And that is a federal grant that we're going after that would help basically fund half of Bergstrom Spur, as well as what they're calling the Southeast Connector, which is the Country Club Creek Trail, which comes in from the north and crosses underneath 290 at Todd Lane, meets up with Burleson, and then also we'll have a bus connection off of Pleasant Valley. So there's information about that I hope Anna passed around. If not, I can send that again. And if anyone wants to write a letter of support for themselves personally, that would be, we would love it because we're trying to get as many letters of support as possible to increase our chances at that federal funding. This project will be funded even if we don't get the federal funding, but it will help us build more trails if we get federal funding to help build this. So trying to stretch our budget as much as we can. The second, maybe more exciting opportunity for public input and from you all is we are going to do Art in Public Places, which is a city program that we use about 2% of the overall budget for public art. And this picture is, I believe, near Old Torf in Congress, but that's just one of the examples of Art in Public Places art that you see all around town. And those opportunities really allow us to, work with local artists and for folks to be creative and for you all to put your personal kind of touch on the projects themselves. And so we will be going back to you all for input on Art in Public Places once we get to 60% design. So look for those opportunities probably August, September, maybe October of this year for Central and West. And we'll definitely let you know when those are coming. So that's all I have and would love to hear any questions you have. It looks like there might be some in the chat. And
so, and if you want to put your contact information in the chat, that way we can pull up the attendees screen so we can see if there's anybody raising their hand. I did share that information in the Google group. So if anybody is interested in doing that letter of support, which is due tomorrow, so that means you'll have some homework tonight if you're wanting to do the letter of support, because unfortunately this was because we had to delay the meeting. This is kind of a tight turnaround on sharing that information. So that's why I went ahead and shared it out to the Google group.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. So let's see, I know there's some questions in the chat. Do you want me to go through those first or raise on? Okay, so first comment looks like is from Kate. Central segment needs to change grade. Are you referring to the trail itself? You're hoping for a grade change?
Just to separate from cars, yes. Just to separate people from that grade crossing. It's really uncomfortable. I know you've been there.
At 35?
Yeah.
Right. I think there are a lot of examples everywhere. I worked in Ohio quite a bit. And my name's Larry, by the way. And so we've been advocating for Bergstrom Spur for, the past 20 plus years. So it's great to see it finally actually coming towards possible, reality. But we got to change grade at I-35. I mean, we just recently had the death of two workers right there at Terry and St. Elmo at I-35 on the feeder road. Regularly, you see auto traffic, 70 miles an hour on that feeder road right there. And just best design would be either to go above or below all that. I mean, the grade needs to change there, in my opinion, and I think just period. And plus, it makes a statement for all the people that are up there on I-35 and accessing it and getting on there. They're really called to the fact that there is a preferred route for people operating on their own power right there. And so that subtly changes the values of the culture around us, especially at an intersection like Ben White and I-35. So I think that's important for a lot of reasons. Safety, of course, primarily and huge, but also it's a way to shape the culture forward. The second thing is the east side is tricky and irritating, and for a lot of reasons, it's because city of Austin is sort of the ones that messed it up or allowed that to happen at the east end, over by the Met Center and the power lines and whatnot. But there's some opportunity over there, as you said, to kind of shift into some natural areas, both over there. But I think something that was kind of left out of the presentation is I believe it's the Greenwood Cemetery. We're going to need a good crossing at 183 as well. So it's kind of an awkward situation. You have to come out and use the light over at the Met Center, but you're going to need to cross 183 also. And then you're in an awkward situation because we just built a giant sort of spaghetti bowl, but there's an opportunity to use that old cemetery. It's called the Greenwood Cemetery. So late at night, we ride the whole way. It's actually outside the high fence of the airport. So if you're willing to sneak across traffic and sneak, you can cut through it now. It's an old historic cemetery right there on the outer edge of the Air Force Base. And then when the airport was built, they brought the security fence offset. So anyway, check that out. That could be a very pleasant and interesting way to get over there to the airport entrance.
Yeah, thank you. So our project limits do end at 183. So we are looking to partner with Project Connect as they build their Blue Line bridge across 183 for what will hopefully be rail traffic to partner with them to get over 183. But our project will end at the 183 on the west side of it.
And it's so, I'm sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to touch you.
I was just going to say, I was saying to the airport. So we are, it's 4 years out probably, but bicycle tourism is a real possibility for people coming to Austin. And we would definitely not want tourists crossing I-35 at grade and Ben White ever.
This is your biggest marketing opportunity for the general public right now. You can fly into Austin just like in Pittsburgh or just like Salt Lake City.
Or DC, or anywhere.
DC, and land and get out on your folding bike or rent a bike or have bike lockers or get on a human powered or electric assisted pedicab and go straight to South by Southwest Festival downtown. Without a direct connection from the mode of transportation where we skip automobiles, where you fly into the airport and then boom, you're on a network. That's where it's marketable, and that becomes part of all of our festival scene, all of our ecotourism scene, or people that live and want to not drive an automobile to pay to park their car on an asphalt desert to leave it there.
Yeah, no, I hear it. I actually rode my bike to and from the airport 3 weeks ago for the first time because of the 183 paths. And it was very doable. I took the hike and bike trail to 183, like off Montopolis Bridge. So it was very doable, but yeah, it would be nice to have that direct line. For the 183, I think that 183, I'll just be blunt and say we don't have it in our budget to do grade change because we can't go, going over would mean we'd have to start ramping up about a half mile before the highway, which is just totally not feasible. I think under would be
I-35 or Ben or 183
at I-35. Yeah.
Yeah, that's TxDOT needs to ante up because that's entirely their purview, and they're responsible for people transporting underneath and around that crazy road network they've got going on. So they need to pay for that. But in Texas, we don't have you've got limestone underneath you, but we don't have a lot of freeze issues, or it's fairly arid. So tunnel is also an option. You can go below grade here.
Yeah, and I think below grade is a possibility in the future if we're adding any sort of transit connectivity. And so that again would be where hopefully we can partner with the Project Connect and the transit they're bringing through that area to be able to add bikeway, pedway to whatever they're adding. But for now, we're doing our best to work with TxDOT and add, so I'm sure you're familiar with it, on the frontage road if you're heading east on the frontage road and you're at 35, there are excess lanes. And so we're hoping to work with them to create goring and basically make it so that through traffic is going to be going through. And then the cars that are headed southbound on the frontage road are going to have basically a tightened radius and lots of signage, and the signal, we're working with them to try and do their own signalization so that trail traffic has their own timing, like phasing, signal phasing to safely cross. And
That
so
helps.
that's
A lot of-
what we're trying to do now.
Yes, and that helps. But with high-speed traffic, it's not the people that pay attention and notice and follow things like pretty Christmas lights. The real concern is the people that don't have any sort of distinction, that they just ran that red light at 70 miles an hour southbound. Without a physical separation, all the Christmas lights isn't going to save you when someone decides to run that intersection at speed.
I think you have,
Yeah.
but I think that we need to also give some time to some of the other folks. I think Angelo's had his hand up very patiently for a while now.
Definitely. I'm happy to chat offline with you all too. I was going to finish the questions in the chat and then go to raised hands if that works, just to get through these. So I did share the presentation with Anna, and she can welcome to share that with everyone. And it sounds like you recorded the presentation too, so you can share with other folks who weren't able to join. Any plans for parking from Richard? So there's existing on-street parking at almost every cross street except for Congress, First, and Todd, I think. And so most of that is very underutilized. So we are not adding any parking lots, but hope that we're not signing for no parking. So that on-street parking will be available to trail users. We also expect there to be part of that hard work on the eastern portion for the dedicated parkland is that they want to build an actual trailhead. And so that park, however that park ends up looking, would have some trailhead parking, but that is under their development and on a totally different timeline. Let's see, towards your all's end. So yeah, I guess the closest would be, let me look at the map real quick for on-street. So any of the, there's on-street parking on Radom. Sounds like that might not be super available to you all because of the hospital using it. But the next one,
I was thinking more around the Aberdeen area where the whole thing kind of kicks off coming off of Vinson.
Oh, that is already, well, that is signed for no parking because of the narrowness of the existing. And so no, there's no parking planned for that. But if you all think that's of concern, that's where we would start looking to try and do shared parking, potentially with like off-peak hours with businesses, or possibly the St. David, actually, since they have that giant parking garage. I think that could be an interesting opportunity.
Yeah, and maybe St. Elmo, the elementary school.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay, that's all the questions in the chat. So let's see, hands that are up. Teresa, I see on the screen. I know there are others.
So I'm here with Richard, and he's mentioned St. Elmo. Okay, I used to teach at St. Elmo Elementary, and my concern is people parking at the elementary during the school day, because we did have issues with people coming to walk their dogs during the middle of the school day, and kids are there. And so a lot of times parking was also an issue for teachers in that lot. And if we're adding, off times for people to go onto the spur, I know that that has come up in the past, like at the campus meetings.
Okay. Yeah, and so, go ahead.
So, just keeping in mind that that is an elementary and there are kids there. And,
I thought
you know,
parking lot
if
was
it's
pretty
on a
good.
Saturday or Sunday, no problem, or, you know, after 4 because of after-school classes. But parking at the elementary school, teachers in the past have had, teachers have had concerns. Because back behind where that is going to be, there's been an issue with transients being back there. And just keeping the kids safe, that's all.
Thank you. Yeah, we
The night
definitely,
there to actually to measure for a labyrinth, and we it seemed like the parking lot was had pretty good signage as far as like where you couldn't park and could park, and whether or not you could get on the property or not, because there were signs on the fence, you know.
People
and-
don't listen, people don't always adhere to that. The kids, if you've noticed, have made signs for people to clean up after their dogs, where the kids think that should be a no-brainer, you know, your dog,
Right.
your poop.
I saw
But-
those, they're really cute.
Yeah. And they've done that for years, but yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah, so
Uh,
as long as it's not promoted as parking,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So
that would be good.
wouldn't want it promoted as parking, yeah.
yeah. Okay, and that I'll bring that up with our Safe Routes folks, since they work so closely with the elementary school themselves for their improvements. Also, PARD owns the park portion of that property. And so they'll want to hear that too. And they have appropriate signage that they use at all of their parks. And so we can work with them to make sure that that's included at all the points that seem like they would be contenders for it. So let's see, who else had their hand up? I don't know if I'm seeing everyone on my screen. I'm not sure how to.
Flipping over, I don't see anybody. So if anybody else has a question for Anne, wave your hand wildly in front of the screen so I can see you. David Foster.
David.
Can you tell us, Ann, what other community groups have already submitted letters of support?
I don't have that list because the RAISE grant's actually being worked on by a partner with ATD, but I know that they've reached out to most of the businesses along the area, most of the businesses in the yard, the school, the businesses along Radom, I would hope St. David's. I know there was a very large list that they requested letters from, but I'm not sure who's actually submitted them. If you want to know, I can give you the contact information for the woman who,
You're probably on it. I could throw some names out, but you guys have probably already done that, so.
yeah, and unfortunately, since the deadline's tomorrow, I think they're, at this point, all the asks have been made, but thank you. I see Angelo asked if there are plans for drinking water, maybe restroom. So our project for like the right of way that we're working in will most likely not put those in, but we expect PARD to want to put those in on their portions of it. And so that could likely be the portion next to St. Elmo Elementary where they have their land, the portion on the east side. And then we're also hoping to be able to work with them and use some of those parkland dedication funds from new development for little pocket parks along the way. But all of that would be outside of the, basically like the 20 to 30 feet of right of way that we're working with. So it would be more trailhead oriented. And we'll definitely want to hear that when we have our next public input. Again, that'll be around 60% design once we get to the full design at 60%, which will be a couple of months. But good to hear that that's wanted now. I totally agree, especially in Austin in the summertime. Restrooms might be a bigger lift, but I think water fountains are definitely possible.
That's great. All right, does anyone else have any other questions for Anne?
Not for Ann, but is it in order to make a motion that we submit a letter of support?
Yes.
I make that motion.
All right, do we have a second? Teresa seconds it. All righty, so instead of doing it the way we did it last time, does anyone oppose submitting a letter of support for this project and the other extension in East Austin?
And to be clear, I mean, like before tomorrow's deadline for that federal grant.
Yeah, that's like tonight. No,
Nobody
No.
opposes. Great. Thank you.
no abstentions. All right, so then that passes unanimously. Perfect. Wow, we had 2 votes in one night, y'all. I think it's a record.
Thank you all so much. I appreciate it. And I put my contact info in the chat, and it is at the end of the presentation that Anna can share. So thank you all so much, and looking forward to working with you all as we get more design, actual design to show you.
So yeah,
Hey,
and
Ann,
when y'all are ready for the 60% and for the art in public places, please reach out to me again, and we'll have you back again.
and
Absolutely.
if you haven't done it, can you share the contact information? Like, who do we submit the letter to?
It's all in the Google group.
You're on it. I knew it.
I'm on.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks you all.
I submitted the sample letter and everything in there, so it's
Oh
all
yeah.
right. Do you want to take care of that, David? Do you have time? Oh wait, you're muted.
What does that mean? Take care of it. You've already submitted a letter. I'll do it.
No, I submitted the letter on behalf of Southwood, so this would be-
Okay. I'll look at the sample letter and do something with it and send it around to the officers and get it done. I have to do it tonight.
Thank you, David. Yeah, you're gonna have to get on it. All right. Make this work, Ann.
Well, no, I really appreciate it. And feel free to reach out if you have other questions. And if not, I will speak to you all again in a few months, hopefully.
Wonderful.
Have a good evening, y'all. I'm going to sign off.
All right, so. Okay, so that ends speaker portion. Now we're going to be doing the treasurer's report. So let me go over here and share my screen so I can share that. All righty. Jimmy, you want to share the treasurer's report?
Yes.
Y'all see that okay? Can you see it, David?
Yes.
Okay.
So the only change we had was to the checking. We had to pay the A and C dues, which was $50. So so that's the checking. Savings went up, a few cents because of minor interest, and that's it for the report.
All right. So if anyone has not renewed their membership, now's the time to renew if you'd like to. It's only $10. We do have a PayPal set up now. So the PayPal email is southwoodofficers@gmail.com. So then I wanted to share also, there's other ways to be in touch with the neighborhood. If you have any ideas or any concerns, you can share them with the southwoodofficers@gmail.com. We have a Google group, which is Southwood Neighborhoods at googlegroups.com. And our website, which is still not updated, is southwoodna.wordpress.com. I've created a Nextdoor group, which is the Southwood Neighborhood Association ATX, as well as a Facebook group, which is Southwood Neighborhood Association ATX. So mark your calendars now to save the dates. Our Southwood Neighborhood Association officer meeting is going to be on Wednesday, April 20th at 5:30. And our next general meeting is going to be on May 18th at 6:30. And for now, they are Zoom. If that changes, we'll let you know. Let's see here. So the next portion of our meeting we'd be going into would be, switch it over to that other. I'm over here touching the screen. I just got a new laptop and I'm like touching the screen like it knows what I'm talking about, and that doesn't even work. Let's see here. So, wanted to give you all an update on the yard signs. As soon as we figure out where we're going to be having the in-person meetings, then we'll be having new yard signs printed. So until then, we need to try to make do with what we have. I know that Missy had shared that hers were pretty sad condition. So Missy, after you pick up the ones from this meeting, if you want to drop them off to me, I can try to refurbish them and get them back to you for the next meeting. Because I bought black duct tape, yellow duct tape, black paint pens. So I'm touching them up as much as I can just to try to get us through until we can meet in person again and we have a location finalized on that. I'm planning on reaching out to the principal at St. Elmo to see if we can go back to meeting there again, because that was really nice. What else do we have? Avenue, save dates. All righty, so the next thing would be new business. If anybody has any ideas for any future general meetings, any topics that you think that the neighborhood would be interested in, please reach out to the Southwood officers at gmail.com, or you can share that now. This is something I ran across. It's going to be coming up at the Southwood Recreation Center. They're going to have movies on the lawn on April 22nd and May 20th. And I thought y'all might be interested in that. And, you know, bring your blankets out of your chairs and being able to get together and have some of the. So Natalie wanted to know what the, it's the, oops. So you wanted to know what the PayPal was. So it's the Southwood officers at gmail.com is the account. Thank you, David. And what other new business did I have?
I just need that checking account balance amount because I missed that. Sorry.
Oh, sure.
For the minutes.
Get it. I can read it out to you.
Yeah, thank you. Or just put it in the chat, whatever you prefer.
Or I can just email it to you.
Whatever you prefer.
Okay, I'll just send it to you because I can't copy and paste it out of that. It's just a photo. Let's see, so what else did I have on my list? Oh, so I was in Zoom the other day logging in, and there was a pop-up that came up that caused concern for me, especially if anyone uses it via their phone. So it said, due to increased demand, dial in by phone audio conferencing capabilities may be temporarily removed from your free basic account. And it says, during this time, we strongly recommend using their computer audio capabilities if you require dial-in by phone audio conferencing, and then they say to look at their package options. So I guess that means you would have to update your software in order to be able to use your phone, which is silly because if you had the software, you probably would be using your computer anyway. So that may be some restrictions in the future regarding being able to dial in to the meetings. I hope not, but it was something that popped up and I thought I would share in case anybody else that had not seen it. So something personal I wanted to share is on May 7th is World Labyrinth Day, and May 6th is World Labyrinth Day in educational settings. And I'm going to be setting up a temporary labyrinth at St. Elmo Elementary School. So if anyone is interested in volunteering to help do that, basically it's going to be just putting landscape staples into the ground using flagging ribbon in concentric circles. I'm hoping that some of the kids will be able to participate in doing that. Maybe some of the older kids that are not going to, you know, smash their hand with a hammer, because I found that it does take a little tap to get those landscape staples into the ground. The plan is to do a temporary one with the flagging ribbon and then to replace the flagging ribbon with old water hoses that have been painted and tacking those down to the ground. So it's more of a permanent installation. So if anybody has any old water hoses at their house they want to get rid of, you can bring them to the corner of Jinx and Red and drop them off, because I'm going to be spray painting them blue, which is the St. Elmo Elementary school color. And so we're going to be doing that. So, oh, is he, Teresa? I'm excited too. I can't wait for the mulch to come in. So he's going to.
What day was that again? I'm sorry.
And the time too.
Yeah. So we haven't set a specific time as to when we're gonna do it, but it's gonna be on Friday, May 6th. Is when we're gonna be setting up the temporary one. And then we'll be moving. So once we set up the temporary one and the kids get a taste of it, and the parents and teachers get to try it out, and if they are happy with the design, then we'll go and we'll do the permanent install of the water hose one. But I'm excited for the kids because I love labyrinths. So, and I think it would be cool for us to have one in the neighborhood. So it's going to be right there where the portable used to be. And so they're going to be laying down mulch in that corner, and we'll be installing it there. So I'm pretty stoked. As you can probably tell. Hey, Kelly.
Hey, Anna. I think, is it Anna or Anna? I'm sorry.
It's Anna.
Anna. I think I have like 100-foot hose that I've been meaning to put out for bulk pickup. And
oh, I would be so happy to take it from you.
Yeah, you can absolutely have it.
Oh, very cool.
And I'll bring it to your house.
Cool. I'm on the corner of Red and Jinx.
I know. I walk my dogs by your house all the time. And after you put the signs out for the,
exactly which house.
all the blue tape. Yeah.
I'm going with the blue flags all over the front yard right now.
Yeah. Yeah. So no, I will happily give you it. I think it's 100-foot hose. Yeah.
Oh,
Long hose.
It's a long hose. Yeah.
Hello, Teresa.
I got a big
Anna,
lot.
Just dropping them off. Is there anywhere in particular? I've got a hose that I'd love to donate.
Yeah, if you want to drop them just in the front yard near the front door,
Okay.
that would be perfect, y'all.
Sounds good.
So, if we wind up with extra hoses, if we double them up on the spiral, that would be even awesome because then it would stand out even more. So I just plan on plugging the ends of them with spray foam. Was the idea I had because I didn't want to cause any kind of place for water to pool and mosquitoes to breed.
Yeah.
Wasps
Talk
to
to Ben
live.
about getting the
Wasps.
fifth graders to help.
What's that?
Get the fifth graders to help.
I hope so. I think yeah. I mean, I think it would be really cool if
I
they were.
think they'll be really excited to do that.
Oh, very awesome. So yeah, I've decided we're gonna just do a simple 5-circuit concentric circles. So it should be pretty simple to lay out. Just a measuring tape and willpower. Yeah, so then after we have it set up on Friday, then Saturday is World Labyrinth Day for everyone. And everyone is invited to come back on Saturday at 1 p.m. Because what we're doing is we're walking as one at one all over the world.
Oh, cool.
So once the labyrinth is set up, if anybody feels inclined to come out and join in, we'll be out there at 1 o'clock. Well, I'll be out there at 1 o'clock. He'll be at a gig. But so does anybody else have any new business or anything exciting they'd like to share? Hello, Natalie.
Hey, I don't know how exciting it is, but for some reason I can't post to the Google group. Nobody can figure it out. But so I'm gonna try to put the link to the contact team meeting in the chat in case anyone's sticking around for it.
Awesome.
So the heads up that's gonna be there.
Okay, cool. And that's going to be starting as soon as we're done, right?
Yeah, it's scheduled for 8. So yeah, whenever we're done, we'll move over there. I'm gonna go ahead and see what I can do. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Does anybody have any ideas for any future meetings about any topics that are a passion for them or anything that has caused any concern? David?
Well, we owe a report, an update on the Brody Oaks PUD at some point.
Oh.
So we can discuss that at the officers meeting and then put that on the next agenda.
Awesome.
I'm the representative and Natalie's the alternate. So we've had meetings.
That's great.
Okay.
It is on the contact team agenda. So
great.
Okay. Anna, maybe Tree Folks could talk to us briefly about their, program of, giving out trees to plant, their handouts of trees. Some people are not aware, aware of that. Neighbors are not aware.
Okay, cool.
What, buddy?
Anyone else?
Okay. No, that's That's good. Hmm. No, that's so good. I guess we're good.
Actually, I would really love to at any point talk about speed mitigation solutions on Bannister and Red. You know, just the thoroughfares through the neighborhood. I am personally invested because I live on Bannister. But I've lived on Bannister for 12 years and I've seen the traffic get worse and worse and worse and faster and faster and faster. And I know it's the same on Red. And Red's a little bit more dangerous because it's a little bit more windy. Bannister, people go really fast because it's a straight shot. But I would love to bring it up over and over again, if possible.
Emerald Forest and Vinson.
Yeah, I just think our neighborhood is so central now, and it's a gateway to the south. There are lots of the South Austin Hippie Highway exists, and we are part of it. And I think that we should be able to have things like roundabouts and road humps, just like Bolden and places like that have. And I know some people don't like them, but some people don't live on the busiest street in the neighborhood.
And you know, we've always had they've always given us the excuse of the ambulances and all of that. I mean, it's been about 2 months, and somebody did a spin and their rear end of their car was in my fence. I mean, they were going way too fast.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I
would love, I think there are like those turtles or the mini bumps where the emergency vehicles can go over them quickly, and Bannister's wide enough, I think, for that stuff. So I would love to talk about it at any time, at any point, at any meeting.
So I think it may be something that we may want to talk about creating a committee regarding that. And then, maybe next meeting, we can talk about creating the committee and finding out if there are any volunteers and getting that started.
Well, considering that the Bergstrom Spur is going to cause more traffic along and what's going on at St. David's, it's going to cause more traffic in our neighborhood. It needs to be addressed.
Yeah, so I think that is definitely something that we could bring up at the next meeting and seeing if we can get folks to volunteer for that. I think
Thanks,
Kelly can spearhead it.
I would absolutely, put me in charge. I'll go get it. Also, I'm a little disappointed that we canceled our last meeting, y'all, because that was my birthday and I was like, I have to go to the meeting. No,
I'm sorry.
No, I'm just kidding. Also, fun fact, my dad, the Bergstrom Spur, the Union Pacific line, my dad was a locomotive engineer for Union Pacific for 45 years. So I think it's super cool that we might turn the old railroad into a hike and bike. And that's, I'll stop talking now.
You're cute. Y'all, the last time we had an in-person meeting was Bergstrom Spur was the topic.
I think it's super cool. I love it. I think it's awesome.
And Anna, Ben was really excited to have the meetings at St. Elmo finally, and then the pandemic hit and everything went south. So
I'm going to reach out to him and see.
And he lives in our neighborhood now.
Yeah, I hope
so. That's really exciting.
Come to the meeting, but
Yeah, he had another engagement tonight, but I've been sending him updates throughout. So
well, awesome. I'll be posting this video to the Southwood YouTube channel because we have one now. And that way he can get caught up on what went down in the meeting. What went up.
I'm the community representative for the campus advisory committee. So I share what goes on here with them.
Oh, fabulous. Yeah, I was really stoked when he reached out to me about the labyrinth and said, and he had a drawing and everything. It was so cute.
Oh,
we want to
so excited about that.
So I was like, we can do that. All right, so does anybody else have anything else they want to share or suggest?
That should do it.
Going? Nope.
Nope.
All right. Okay, y'all. Well, thank you so much for
Okay.
coming tonight. I really appreciate it. Everyone, you are welcome to come to the officer meeting. They are open. So, you know, if you have time next month to come, please join us. What is that? Oh, the cat has a new toy, y'all. Can you hear it? It's like a little stuffed bird that makes a chickadee sound. Like, what is that? All right. Well, thanks for coming, y'all.
Okay.
Now, hopefully, if you want to join the contact him, follow the link that's in the chat. Good night.
Good night. Good night. Thank you.
Thank you.